For my community involvement project, I chose to have a conversation with someone who is transgendered, who also happens to be my best friend, Felix. We've been best friends for 3 years now, and in that 3 years, I've learned a lot about what it's like to not fit in with the norm, and I've learned a lot about what being transgender is like, and I see the struggles that he faces on a day-to-day basis, and I thought it would be interesting to talk about that for my community involvement project.
My name's Felix. I live in Toronto, Ontario. I'm 19 years old, and I am transgendered.
How did you know you were transgendered?
Well, I knew that I was different growing up, and that I didn't feel right in my body.
How did your family respond when you told them you were trans?
I don't think they responded well. I think that the only one who really might have responded okay to it was my dad, but the best out of him is that he doesn't care. My mother, though, doesn't believe it, and I don't think that she believes that I'm going to go through with it, or that it even, I think she thinks that I'm delusional, that it's just going to pass like a phase.
Do you think media does a good job of portraying trans people? Why or why not?
I don't think they do a good job at all, honestly, because every transgendered person I've seen, out of the very few that are on the media, or in the media, rather, have either been over-exaggerated or a joke. I think the media did a good job with Boys Don't Cry for Hilary Swank being Brennan Tina. I think she did a really great job. And it really shows the way that someone might feel being transgendered, you know, the hurdles that they face and the trauma that they might go through because of it. And I feel like that's the only part of media that I've felt hasn't totally butchered people's ideas of what transgenderism is.
Do you plan on undergoing a sex change surgery? What is the process for that?
I do plan on undergoing a sex change operation. Not the exact full sex change operation, but most of it. It starts off with hormones. Well, first it starts off with a name change, and then hormones, and then a mastectomy, which is top surgery, and then usually people get hysterectomies because there's a chance of cancer if you don't get rid of your ovaries. But a lot of time people will only, they'll take the hormones and they'll get rid of the top, and then they'll keep everything else fine and untouched until the hormones are done reacting with what's already there, or in other words, making the clitoris into a little penis. And then they'll get surgery to make a sac out of what's there.
What is your sexual orientation and how does it relate to being trans?
I'm very flexible with my sexual orientation. I have dated men and I've dated women. It doesn't really matter to me. But being transgendered has actually affected that usually pretty badly, because most of the time people find out later, and then, you know, then they start thinking, well, you're not the person I fell in love with, so I don't want to be with you anymore.
How do you respond to people discriminating against you?
Usually negatively, or not at all. Or I just laugh and walk away. Most of the time, other people around me who will stick up for me and tell the people that I am this, that they're wrong, and I'll just pretend like nothing's happening because I don't want to deal with it. I've been discriminated by people who have been close to me about my transgenderism. Like, one of my exes actually sat there and tried to tell me that you're not this. No, you got it all wrong. You're not transgendered. You just like to dress up like a boy. To that, I mostly waved my hand and said, whatever, and go away, I don't want to talk to you now. One of the most common things that people usually say to me is that I'm a shame. And it's such a shame that I am the way I am because I could have been something better. Sometimes I start to believe it. Sometimes I think that this world must be a really terrible place if people can get away with walking around judging someone else's life.
What do you want to do with your life, and how do you think being trans will affect that?
I have two different directions that I want to go in. I want to go down a medical or scientific field, or I go down an artistic field. Two totally different things, but I think that on one side it would be the most accepting of anything, that as an artist I would find so many people who would accept me for who I was and whatever I was, and they wouldn't really care because most of them don't. A lot of them are very open-minded. But if I went down a scientific field, it'd be the total opposite story. A lot of scientists would, are probably trying to find a reason why people are like me. So it'd be like always sitting there and having scientists or doctors look at you like, what's wrong with you? Or as a doctor or a psychologist, I couldn't help someone else because look at me. I don't even know how to keep my own life together. Like, I'm not normal, so why would I be a doctor? I have been drawing for about 9 years, and honestly, my favorite aspect of it might be taking something and putting it into a still form, like capturing a moment and putting it on paper with all the time and effort that it would take. But that moment had feeling, and that moment had, like motivation and inspiration, and forever it's gonna be there as what it is. I love capturing things and locking them on a piece of paper. I used to use art as an escape from myself, mostly. I still do.
How do gender roles affect you?
Gender roles affect me in a way that, because of my height and because of my small frame, people will automatically assume that I am a female. That with my shortness and my petite nature, I'm automatically, to them, a female.
What are your hopes for the future?
I want what everyone else wants, that happy, fulfilled life, and the ability to walk around without being constantly judged or discriminated.
What are some common misconceptions about trans people?
A lot of people think that it's idealistic, that a man becoming a woman or a woman becoming a man is just part of some dream that they were having, and it's a delusion, and that they should get real doctor's help. Another common misconception is that they've been sexually abused, that a lot of the time they think, like a woman only wants to get a sex change because she's been abused, or a man only wants to get a sex change because he's been abused, like as if getting violated has made them want to become another gender.
Do you think of yourself as different from everybody else?
There's a certain extent to where everybody feels like they're different than everyone else. People always believe that they're special and, or that they're weird and nobody understands them. I have felt that the same way. I felt that I am very different and I don't fit in anywhere most of my life. I still do, but not because I'm trans, because now I realize that it's actually a lot more common than I thought it was. I didn't understand it as much as I do now. So now I don't feel as different knowing that there's more people like me.
What would you say to younger trans people that are struggling to come to terms with it?
I would say that they shouldn't worry about being alone, and that they should look to their communities for as much help as possible, where like their LGBT communities, and find people that feel the same way as them. Because once you start to feel like that part of your life isn't so different, or you're not so alone in it, then it starts to fall in place better than if you spent it thinking that no one understood. Don't listen to people who try to put you down. And if someone accidentally, or doesn't know that you're trans and calls you by the wrong pronouns, then don't automatically think it's their fault and get mad at them, but try to be very understanding that some people don't understand it the way that you do.